Starting chapter 5 here, we are dealing with quadratics, and this is 5.1. And in 5.1, okay, let's take a gander here. In 5.1, we're going to talk about graphing quadratics first. And when you're graphing quadratics, basically, here's what we are going to take a look at when graphing these. When graphing these, you need to set up a list or a table. And by doing so, what that means is, let's pick about 5 points to plug in. And when I pick points to plug in, I enjoy picking some negative ones, and I enjoy picking some positive ones. So I'm going to plug in -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. So what that means is I'm going to do substitution. I'm going to plug in a -2 into this problem right here and try to solve it. So by doing so, -2 squared is 4. 4 minus 1 is 3. Or sorry, 4 minus 3 is 1. So I put a 1 there. Next up, I plug in a -1. So that's like saying -1 squared minus 3. Well, -1 is 1. 1 minus 3 is -2. Then I plug a 0 in. So 0 squared minus 3. Well, that's like saying 0 minus 3, which is -3. When I plug in a 1, 1 squared minus 3 is like saying 1 minus 3, and 1 minus 3 is -2. When I plug a 2 in, 2 squared minus 3 is like saying 4 minus 3, which is also 1. So, the point is, after doing this, okay, after we do all this, we now have our list of points, and that's what's important. What's important is having our list of points there and have them available. So now that I have my list of points available, now I'm going to use those points and I'm going to plot the points. And what that basically means is, first point I have is -2, 1. That means I go over -2, up 1, and put a point. The next point I have is -1, -2. That means I go over -1 and down 2 and put a point. The next one is 0, -3. That means I go over nothing and down 3 and I put a point. 1, -2. That means I go over 1 and down 2 and put a point. And 2, 1 is right here. And I draw, and it's a parabola, so I'm going to try my best here. It's supposed to gradually get larger each way. It's supposed to be a U-shaped graph. Things to keep in mind are positives out in front means the graph will be a U shape going like this. If it's a negative out in front, the U will go down. So taking a look at this graph now, it's exactly the same. You still plug in some values. Let's plug in some values here and see what we get. I'm going to plug in a -2 again, -1, 0, 1, and 2. So when I plug this in, I'm plugging in a -2 squared plus 3 times -2 plus 4. So -2 squared is 4. And 3 plus -2 is -6, plus another 4 there. And when we do that, we end up getting, so when we plug that all in, the 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 minus 6 is 2, so we have a 2 there. Then let's try plugging in a -1 to see what we get. So when I plug in a -1, we end up getting, let's see here, that's 1, -3, and a positive 4. 1 plus 4 is 5. 5 minus 3 is 2. Then let's try plugging in a 0. So if I plug a 0 in there, that cancels out, so all I have left is a 4. So let's try plugging in a 1 and see what happens. Well, if I plug in a 1, Let's just take a gander and see what happens here. We plug in a 1, I get 1 squared and 1, so that's 1 plus 3 plus 4. Well, 1 plus 3 is 4, 4 plus 4 is 8. And then if I plug in a 2, gotta plug in a 2, 2 squared is 4, 3 times 2, that becomes 6. So 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 6 is 14. So when I go to graph these, negative 2 plus 2, I put a point right there. Negative 1 plus 2, I put a point right there. 0, 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is right there. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is right there. And 2, 14 would be somewhere way up here. Now obviously, as you can tell, if you know anything about parabolas, it's supposed to be the same on both sides. So follow the pattern. This is up 2 over 1, so up 2 over 1 this way. This is up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1, so I go up 4 over 1 this way, and I go up and over 1 this way. Now, most of you are going to think, oh, do I connect that with a straight line? No. A parabola does not come down like a curve and then go to a straight line. What it means is you're going to connect the point with a curve. So you curve the entire item there as well. Alright, so when we come back here, we will take a look at the next graphs.